In 2007, inside a small dressing room at Camp Noun, a photographer was preparing for what seemed like an ordinary charity photo shoot. In the corner sat a simple white plastic baby bathtub. A young Barcelona player was asked to hold a 6-month-old baby for the camera. Neither of them knew that this single photograph would one day become one of the most famous football images ever taken. The footballer was Lionel Messi. The baby was Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal Nasraoui Ibana was born on the 13th of July, 2007, just outside Barcelona. But his story began long before that day. It began with 2 families, 2 countries, and countless sacrifices. His father, Mounir, came from Larache, Morocco. His mother, Sheila, came from Bata in Equatorial Guinea. They arrived in Spain, carrying little more than hope for a better future. Life wasn't easy. Money was scarce. Every month brought another struggle to pay the rent. During those difficult days, 2 friends stepped forward without expecting anything in return. Their names were Lamine and Yamal. When their son was born, his parents combined both names. It was their way of saying, kindness should never be forgotten. Sacrifice already ran through Lamine's family long before he could walk. His grandmother had left Morocco alone, determined to build a better future for her children. It wasn't an easy journey. Every mile she traveled carried uncertainty. Every sacrifice became another step toward a better tomorrow. Years later, her grandson would carry those sacrifices onto football's biggest stages. When Lamine was still very young, his parents separated. His mother raised him while working long night shifts. Every evening she left for work, hoping that one more shift would bring her son's dream a little closer. Lamine would spend his days at school, then training, before waiting patiently for his mother to return home. At times, life became so difficult that they stayed wherever they could. A borrowed room, a friend's spare space, anywhere that could offer safety for a mother and her young son. Eventually, they settled in Rocafonda, a neighborhood many people had already forgotten. Rocafonda wasn't famous. It wasn't wealthy. Newspapers often described it as isolated, overlooked, and left behind. But to one little boy carrying a football everywhere he went, it was home. Every street became a football pitch. Every wall became a goal. At just 4 years old, Lamine joined a small local football club. He was almost always the smallest player on the pitch, but size never mattered. The ball seemed to obey him. While other children chased the game, Lamine already seemed to understand it. Without anyone realizing it, football had already found its next wonder kid. The coaches noticed something unusual almost immediately. Most children kicked the ball, then chased after it. Lamine was different. It was as if he already knew where the ball wanted to go. He slipped between defenders twice his size, without panic, without rushing, always with a smile on his face. Word about the little boy from Rocafonda began to spread. Scouts from FC Barcelona heard the stories. They came to watch him play. What they saw left little room for doubt. At just 6 years old, Lamine received the invitation every young footballer dreams about. He was joining La Masia, the academy that had produced legends like Xavi, Andres Iniesta, Sergio Busquets, and Lionel Messi. Carrying only a small sports bag, the boy from Rocafonda walked through those famous gates. On the 29th of April, 2023, history knocked on the door. Lamine Yamal stepped onto the pitch for Barcelona's first team. He was only 15 years old. 15 years, 9 months, and 16 days. No Barcelona player had made a younger first-team debut since 1922. A record that had survived for more than a century was finally broken. 5 months later, another chapter was written. Barcelona faced Granada in Spain's top division. The moment arrived. Lamine found the back of the net. At just 16 years and 87 days old, he became the youngest goalscorer in the history of La Liga. One more record, and he was only getting started. It wasn't only Barcelona paying attention anymore. Spain wanted him too. At 16 years old, Lamine made his debut for the Spanish national team. Most players spend years waiting for that moment. Lamine needed only one match to make history. He scored on his debut, becoming both Spain's youngest ever debutant and youngest ever goalscorer. 2 records. One unforgettable night. Then came the summer of 2024. Europe watched as Spain arrived in Germany for the UEFA European Championship. Among experienced international stars stood a teenager who had not yet turned 17. Every match brought another record. Every performance made the football world ask the same question. How can someone this young play with such confidence? The semi-final against France became the night football truly met Lamine Yamal. Spain had fallen behind early. The pressure was enormous. Then, the ball rolled toward the young winger. Without hesitation, he curled a breathtaking strike into the top corner. Silence. Then an explosion of celebration. At 16 years and 362 days old, Lamine became the youngest goalscorer in the history of the European Championship. A goal that instantly became part of football history. Spain completed the journey. Days later, they lifted the European Championship trophy. Lamine was named the tournament's young player. His spectacular goal against France was voted goal of the tournament. Only months earlier, he had been another teenager dreaming of success. Now, he stood on top of European football. Back in Rocafonda, something extraordinary was happening. Artists painted Lamine's face across the walls of the neighborhood. Children stopped to take pictures. Parents smiled with pride. Streets once ignored by the world now had visitors arriving because of one young footballer. Lamine hadn't just changed his own life. He had changed the way people looked at the place he still called home. Success can change your life, but it doesn't make your family immune to hardship. In August 2024, Lamine's father, Munir, was attacked in a car park in Mataró. He suffered stab wounds and was rushed to hospital. Thankfully, he survived. Police arrested several suspects as the investigation unfolded. It was a painful reminder that behind every football star, there is a family living through real life. Behind every highlight reel is a real family. Real fears, real sacrifices, real love. Even through difficult moments, Lamine continued to play, carrying the hopes of Rocafonda with him. Back at Barcelona, the records kept falling. Youngest player to start a Champions League knockout match. Youngest player to reach 100 appearances. Youngest player to score and assist in the same Champions League game. Every month seemed to bring another milestone. Then came the biggest stage in Spanish football, El Clásico, Barcelona against Real Madrid. Millions watched around the world. The pressure could overwhelm even experienced professionals. But Lamine played without fear. When the opportunity arrived, he found the back of the net. In doing so, he became the youngest goal scorer in El Clasico history. Another record, another unforgettable night. By the end of the season, Lamine had become one of football's brightest stars. Goals, assists, awards. At an age when most teenagers were still in school, he was already competing with the best players on earth. On his 18th birthday, Barcelona placed their trust in him once again. A long-term contract, a promise for the future. The little boy from Rocafonda had become one of the club's biggest hope. By 2025, Lamine Yamal was no longer simply a promising teenager. He had become one of Barcelona's most important players. Every match brought new expectations. Every touch of the ball reminded fans they were witnessing the rise of a special talent. With success came pressure. Defenders studied him. Opponents doubled their marking. Every stadium wanted to stop him. Yet he continued to create chances with the calm of a veteran. Back in Rocafonda, children copied his celebrations. They wore Barcelona shirts with his name on the back. The boy who once dreamed on those same streets had become the proof that dreams could come true. To many supporters, Lamine became more than a footballer. He became a symbol of perseverance, family sacrifice, and hope. Every goal carried the story of everyone who had believed in him long before the world knew his name. Despite the headlines and the growing fame, Lamine never forgot where he came from. Rocafonda remained part of his identity, and every time he raised 3 fingers, then 0, then 4, he carried his neighborhood with him onto football's biggest stages.